I was 10 the first time my parents trusted me to stay home alone at night. They were only going to a meeting at church, just a couple of hours, Dad said. Mom went over the rules like she always did. Lock the doors, keep the phone close, emergency numbers are on the fridge, and whatever you do, don't open the door for anyone. I nodded like I wasn't terrified. When they left, the silence rushed in behind them like a draft. The house felt bigger, emptier, like all the noises it made were suddenly louder. Creaks, pops, the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the hallway clock. I tried to distract myself with TV, but kept looking around, checking the locks again. Front door, back door, sliding glass door, everything secure. It was around 8:45 when someone knocked. Not loud, just slow, confident. My whole body went stiff. Mom and Dad wouldn't knock. They had keys. I muted the TV, held my breath. Then a man's voice drifted through the door, smooth, too casual. "Hey there, buddy. Your parents home?" My chest tightened. I didn't answer. He knocked again. "Come on, kid. I just spoke with your dad. He told me to stop by and check on you." Lie. My dad never said anything about someone coming. And the tone of this man's voice, something about it sounded dishonest. I crept to the peephole. He wasn't anyone I recognized. Tall, hood up, hands shoved in his pockets, leaning close to the door like he was listening to my breathing. "Your dad, Mr. Johnson? He told me..." My last name isn't Johnson. My stomach dropped. He tried the doorknob. The metal rattled. My heart raced so hard it hurt. I backed away from the door, grabbed the house phone, and called my mom. Voicemail. I tried my dad. Voicemail. My hands shook. Should I call the cops? Was I overreacting? My parents always said emergencies only, but this felt like one. And yet, fear kept me frozen, caught somewhere between panic and doubt. That's when I heard it. Gravel crunching. He was walking along the side of the house, toward the backyard, toward the sliding glass door. I hurried to the kitchen, staying low, peeking toward the dark window. The curtains were open. My breath caught. His shadow moved across the yard, slow, searching, predatory. I ducked behind the counter, hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. My thoughts spun. Call 911. But what if Mom and Dad get in trouble? What if I get in trouble? What if... Then suddenly, through the kitchen window, a voice cut through the dark. Not his. A woman's voice. "Hey, who are you? What are you doing back there?" My heart jumped. It was Ms. Reynolds, our next-door neighbor. Her porch light flicked on, flooding the fence line. She stepped closer. "Why are you looking into their windows? They're not home. Who are you?" His body shifted, tense. His head whipped toward her. Then he bolted. No hesitation, just turned and sprinted across the yard, disappearing into the dark between the houses. I stayed crouched, barely breathing. Ms. Reynolds called out, "Sweetheart, you in there? Are you okay?" Tears finally hit my eyes. I stood slowly, walked to the sliding door, and yanked the curtains closed before answering. "Yes," I cracked. "I'm okay." "Did you know that man?" she asked. "No." Her voice softened immediately. "Stay inside. I'm calling your parents now." It was only when I hung up the phone that I felt the weight of everything. The fear, the silence, the shaking in my hands I couldn't stop. And then, from the corner of my eyes, I saw it. A verse my mom had taped on the fridge months ago. The one I'd never really paid attention to until that moment. Psalm 27:10. "Even if my father and mother abandon me, the Lord will hold me close." I whispered it to myself, over and over, like the words were wrapping around me, holding me tighter than any locked door. When my parents burst through the front door minutes later, Mom nearly knocked me over. Dad kept saying, "You did the right thing. You did everything right." But deep down, I knew something else had kept me grounded. Later that night, I lay in their room, listening to the house noises again. Creaks, hums, the ticking clock. But they didn't sound the same. The fear had left with the stranger. What stayed behind was something quieter, relief, gratitude, and a verse that suddenly meant everything. Even if my father and mother abandon me, the Lord will hold me close. And that night, I believed it. You ever stay at a friend's new house and immediately regret it? Yeah, this was one of those nights. My boy John had just moved into a place on the edge of town. Fresh paint, new floors, still had that recently built smell. He invited me over to hang out and stay the night. Nothing special, just games, food, and jokes. But the moment I walked in, I could sense something was off. A heaviness, like the air was watching us. I told him, "Bro, you should pray over this place. New homes can carry old spirits." He laughed. "Man, it's just a house. Relax." So I dropped it, but I shouldn't have. Around midnight, we were in the living room watching a movie when we heard it. Slow, heavy footsteps, directly above us. I looked at John. He paused the movie. "Bro, you got someone upstairs?" He shook his head. "Nah, it's just the attic. Probably the house settling." But houses don't settle in a walking pattern. The footsteps continued, steady, pacing back and forth across the attic. It sounded like someone taking their time, exploring. John tried to laugh it off again, but his face told a different story. So we both stood up, grabbed our phones, and listened. Then it stopped, right above the living room. I whispered, "Bro, if someone's up there, we gotta go." But before we could move, the footsteps started running. Heavy, fast, pounding across the attic like something dropped on all fours and sprinted. We backed toward the front door. Then, a deafening bang hit the ceiling, like something fell or jumped right above us. John finally panicked. Okay, we're leaving, now." We got outside so fast we didn't even turn off the lights. Standing in the yard, catching our breath, we looked up at the attic window, and that's when we saw it. A shadow, not moving, not shifting, just standing there, like it was watching us leave. John refused to sleep there that night. We crashed at my place instead. The next morning, in full daylight, we went back. The attic door was still closed. The house was silent. But when we pulled down the ladder and climbed up, there were footprints. Small, dusty prints leading across the attic floor and stopping right at the edge where the ladder would have been. Like something had been standing there, listening to us below. John looked at me, finally serious. "Okay, so how do I pray over this house?" I just shook my head. Before he could respond, I pulled out my phone. "We're not doing this alone. I'm calling a pastor. Whatever's been happening in here, footsteps, whispers, all of it, it's not something you laugh off." John swallowed hard, nodding, and for the first time, he actually listened. I booked the Airbnb because it was cheap, too cheap, honestly. But Steve and I needed a quiet weekend to reset after a rough few weeks. The host said the cabin was older and had character, but I didn't expect character to mean creaks that sounded like footsteps and walls so thin they seemed to breathe. Steve had to run into town for groceries, leaving me alone to unpack. That's when the house settled with a groan so deep it vibrated the floorboards. I paused. Then came a second sound, lighter, like someone dragging their feet across the attic above me. I laughed it off at first, telling myself it was old wood, but then I heard it again. "Steve, hurry up," I muttered. I grabbed my phone and walked toward the hallway. The air felt colder there, like I'd crossed into a different temperature zone. A faint draft brushed my ankles. I followed it and noticed something I swear wasn't in the listing photos. A tiny door at the base of the wall, half hidden behind a dresser. My heartbeat pressed against my ribs. "What is this?" I whispered. The door wasn't even locked. One tug, and it opened with a soft crack, releasing a smell of cold dirt and something metallic. Inside was a dark crawl space, deeper than the house's layout should have allowed. The air seemed to hum with a low vibration. A long, narrow tunnel stretched beyond the hole, disappearing into blackness. Nope, nope, nope. I shut the door and slid the dresser back, but the second I stepped away, the footsteps above me started again. Except now, they were moving toward the attic hatch in the hallway, the one directly above the tiny tunnel door. I froze. "Steve, bro, where are you?" I whispered under my breath. The attic hatch rattled once, like someone was testing it from the inside. My throat went dry. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Steve. "Pulling in now." Perfect timing. When he stepped inside, I practically launched myself at him. "Bro, you need to see this. I think someone's living in the attic, or under the house, or both. He sighed, probably thinking I was being dramatic, but followed me anyway. I moved the dresser, opened the tiny door, and shined my phone's light inside. The tunnel seemed even deeper now, like it had stretched. Steve's face drained of color. Okay, yeah, that's not normal. Then, a sound drifted out of the tunnel, a voice, whispering, barely audible, "Come back." I slammed the little door shut so hard, dust rained from the ceiling. "We're leaving," I said, "right now." We grabbed our bags and sprinted to the car. As we pulled out of the driveway, the attic window lit up, just for a second, like someone had turned on a lamp inside. Someone we never met. We didn't stop driving until we hit the main road. Neither of us talked for a long time. When we finally did, Steve whispered, "Bro, what was in that tunnel?" I stared ahead, hands gripping the wheel. I don't ever want to know.